Welcome to another episode of the Advice First podcast. This is your host, Robert Clark. Today, I am joined by a pretty badass guest, if I do say so myself. Come on, man. Give yourself some credit. I got Mr. Brock Vereen in the house. Welcome to the Advice First podcast. Brock, how are you?
Cannot complain. Thanks for having me.
Dude, great to have you. So, funny story, we were talking off air. Brock, you wouldn't know it by looking at us because he makes me look like a little kid. But I'm actually 4 years older, and I was Shane Vereen's, Brock's older brother, left tackle. So that's my claim to fame. Anybody that knows the Vereen family, I'm like, yeah, but you know Shane? I was his left tackle.
You started him off right. We'll put it that way.
I appreciate that. And now we have it recorded on a memory card. I have this forever for the rest of my life. Brock, you had a phenomenal career yourself. And what I'm really excited to have you on the podcast today to talk about is, one, that journey that you faced, going from awesome high school athletics all the way up to professionals, and then what you're doing now. I think there's so many lessons that our audience can benefit from hearing. So I guess from the top, in high school, start us off there. What was it like for you as a high school athlete, and where to go?
I got very lucky having an older brother who was having success in high school and was close with the head coach, Coach Meir, of course, at the time. And I was able to see how to do things, what to do and what not to do. And that held true through college and the NFL as well. It's kind of like having a cheat code, so to speak, where a lot of people are having to feel things out and making their mistakes. I got to see other people make mistakes, seeing my brother or some of his friends make mistakes or do the right thing and mimic that or do the opposite. High school was fun. I got very lucky in that me and my brother were competitive in a good way, in pushing me to be better. Never, a lot of older siblings hide the fact that they have a younger sibling, especially when you're the big man on campus, you're a senior. Here comes this little version of you who's half your size walking around campus, right? But it was never that. All of his friends were cool with me. All the teachers, thankfully he did well in the classroom, so all the teachers automatically liked me. I had it very easy in high school. And then you go to college, and I would go visit him whenever I could when he was up at Cal Berkeley, not too far away. And I got to see how college worked and how, you really pressed the reset button, because everyone here was a good high school player. That's how you make it to college. And you see a lot of people on college campuses, especially freshmen or maybe a young transfer, who thinks, I was the man in high school in Texas or Florida or some big state. Or I was a 5-star recruit, 4-star recruit, and they don't understand that doesn't matter. Yeah. They'll play the walk-on who started football 2 years ago if he's good enough. You know what I mean? Yeah. I was able to put all of that aside and say, okay, this is a fresh start. They don't care where I'm from. They don't care what I've done. This is a fresh start. And then the NFL, it's the same exact thing. I got to see what he did right, what some guys did wrong. And again, this is a fresh start. Press the reset button. Doesn't matter what you did in college. There's SEC, Big Ten, ACC guys everywhere. Yeah. And again, that was just the luck of having a supportive older brother.
Dude, that's incredible. And how did having that perspective of, you get to college and you're like, dude, everyone's good. Everyone was their hometown hero, right? Yeah. And then you take that back to your high school game. How did that influence how you were practicing and kind of where you were mentally?
It made me realize I'm not just competing against the scout team. I'm not just competing against Westlake High School. I'm competing against Ohio State right now, because the better I get today is the better I perform on Friday, and that's the better I can come in as a freshman next year. Yeah. Once I didn't commit to Minnesota until my senior year was over, but I knew I was going to go to college to play football. I didn't know where. Yeah. And I had it in my mind, okay, yes, you had a good game, but you're not competing against these guys. You want to win, you love your teammates, but you still are also competing against all the other 17-year-olds who are going to be going into college next year. Yeah. So that was the mindset that I tried to keep.
Yeah, I love that. And so you're at Minnesota. Was it different going into it, you're post high school, now you're the collegiate player. Yeah. Was it different than you experienced with your brother, or?
It was different because, recruiting is recruiting, and I had the benefit, again, knowing that all recruiters lie. They're going to tell you this, hey, you can have this number, you can live in this apartment, you don't need to live in the dorm, yeah, you're going to start day one, all that. I got lucky because I knew all that was BS, so that went in one ear out the other. Dude. So whereas a lot of people could get swept up in that, I saw my brother get lied to, so I was like, I'm not going to take it at face value. Thankfully for him, he was a hard worker, so he was able to fight all that. But you hear it all the time, and it is what it is. You're selling something. I want this kid to come to my school. So there's no ill will, but I guess I had the inside info is, hey, just get there and work. Don't listen to a thing that they're telling you. Make sure it's the right school for you, but don't go because of something that they promised you.
Yeah, and then kind of tailing off from college when it was time to potentially get drafted. What were like the emotions? What's going through your mind?
It doesn't feel real. You don't. If I could tell any kid going into their final year of college right now, I would say just enjoy your final year. There's plenty. You have plenty of time to worry about the NFL when this season's over. I do wish my senior year was a blast. My time in college, I wouldn't trade for anything in the world. But I do wish instead of having 99% enjoyment, I could have got that 1%. The stress of worrying about things that are just out of your control. You have no idea who's going to take you. You don't know if you're going to get drafted. You could talk to the Green Bay Packers every single day from your final down to the draft. And then the Eagles trade up and take you. You know what I mean? Like it's there's so many things you do not need to worry about because it's out of your control. Just enjoy it. Talk to your friends. Go grab a drink with them whenever you can, because for the next couple of years, your life is going to be absolute chaos.
Yeah. Was being a professional athlete, specifically in the NFL, was it different than you had always dreamt of?
It was. It was. I knew it would be different, but it still caught me off guard. As they say, it's a business, but because it's the same game you've been playing since you were 6 years old, or maybe even earlier, flag football, it's so hard to adjust that in your brain. But at the end of the day, it's a business. Nobody's career is going to go the way that they think it is. That goes for Tom Brady. If you ask Tom Brady when he was 18 years old, showing up on Michigan's campus, hey, you're going to be the best quarterback of all time. Like, yeah, he would be confident, but he wouldn't 100% fully believe all these rings and think he's doing this. He's going to be 45 by the end of the year, something like that. So that goes for the good end and the bad end, guys who wish they were still playing and they only got 1 or 2 seasons. So there is no blueprint. It's not going to go the way you think it's going to go, good, for better or worse. And I understood that, but even still, there were just so many moments. It was like, man, this is a lot. There's just so much going on. This is chaos. And while you were with the Bears, you had the chance to play against Shane, right? Yes. While he was still with the Patriots. Yep. That was my single favorite football memory for sure. Really? Is they whooped up on us. That was their Super Bowl year. They were light years ahead of everybody else in the league. But even still having so much family there, being on the field that I had been watching him play on for the past 3 years. This was his 4th year in New England. Laughing and joking with some of his teammates because I'd gotten to know them over the last 3 years. And then, of course, seeing all the family before and after the game and seeing him before and after the game. Texting him minutes before it was time to go warm up. That day I could tell you every minute detail of it, and I don't think that memory will ever fade. It's such a rare experience that not many people are ever going to be able to live. That's awesome. Do you think, or how did that journey of, going to high school athlete, which you were top rated in high school, and continuing that all the way through all of these layers of sports, the mindset, the mental grit that builds, how has that benefited you in your professional life today? Me and Shane and some other people at work, we talk about this often, how easy it is to spot somebody who has never played a team sport. doesn't have to be professional, doesn't have to be college, doesn't even have to be high school. There are 5-year-olds playing Pop Warner football or soccer or softball that are learning lessons that are going to give them a leg up on people in the professional world. Being accountable, knowing, hey, if I don't do my job, that makes his job harder, and that makes her job harder, which makes his job harder, which makes her job harder. There's people who genuinely don't understand that, and I'm sure you've crossed paths with that as well. Yep. And even if your football journey ended in high school, you still understand the concept of a team. And I would always get so frustrated, but then I realized it's not their fault. They don't know that. They haven't been on a team. They haven't been responsible for someone else's success. And that's the thing I think I've grasped onto the most. I think that's why we've been so successful to be such a young company so far, is because everyone on that team is, except for our CEO, is a former athlete. And there's an understanding of ownership, of accountability, of, hey, this may be due Thursday at midnight, but I'm just going to finish it by Tuesday at 1 p.m. because now his job's easier, you know? And that comes from Coach Mir. That comes from Coach Kill at the University of Minnesota. That comes from Coach Brewster. And that is definitely something that I hope I don't ever lose.
I love that. That's such a strong foundation, you know? So tell us what you're up to now. Esports.
So ESTV, it is a 24/7 esports network. We launched 2 years ago, and it has been wonderful. Could not ask for a better 2 years. We are in a lot of countries. I wish I could list them off, but you never know how many countries you've never heard of until you're looking at it I didn't know that was a place.
That's so funny.
Canada, Brazil, all over Europe, at least 44 countries in Europe now. Wherever you get your non-cable television, so Roku, Amazon Fire Stick, Sling TV, digital cable is what some people are calling it, but OTT platforms. That's been a blast, and been able to broadcast as well, doing some color commentary with previously Fox Sports. Now it's called Bally Sports West with the whole Disney buyout, all that chaos. In the Southern California area in high school football, which is awesome. The NFL draft was just a couple of days ago, and seeing kids get drafted that I had covered in games at Mater Dei or Servite or something like that, it's a feeling that never gets old.
Yeah, that's so neat. Have you always, had the traits of a commentator? Were you always outgoing or what?
I always loved watching them. Stuart Scott, of course, everybody's favorite. I would watch the same SportsCenter episode a million times just because he was just so engaging and he made it more fun. My senior year of college, during summer break, I came home from Minnesota, and I was lucky enough to get an internship at NFL Network. And going in, I was a communications major. I knew it was, I wasn't sure if it was going to be the more journalistic route or the more on-camera, behind-camera production route. I knew it was going to be something in that world, covering stories of some kind or sports. So I knew going into the internship at NFL Network, I think I want to do this, but after the internship, I was like, okay, this is definitely what I want to do. And fortunately enough, when the playing days were over, I got a phone call, and it said, hey, we need a standby guy. I know you're interested in doing this, and if somebody gets sick, if God forbid a family emergency happens, you can be the next guy up. And I was like, cool. 2 days later, it's like, hey, a guy has an emergency. You're on for the full year, and you start this week. I was like, oh, God. So that game was obviously horrible, but that's how it all happened. Life is really funny that way. It doesn't let you prepare much. You just got to be ready for it.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, because I love that. And I've experienced that, with whether it was recording videos or, starting this podcast. If you go back and listen to the first couple episodes, what was it like to cut your teeth as a commentator on national television?
It's scary because you come from football where, regardless of how successful your career is, you're good because that's how you get to be a professional. A bad figure skater, a bad professional figure skater is still in the 99th percentile of figure skaters, And it's the fear of being bad at something again. And I got lucky because I got put with the best production crew of all time, and Dennis Ackerman, who's been covering stuff in Southern California forever, was my play-by-play guy. I got super lucky. He was super informative. He was teaching me in the middle of everything. And I learned very quickly, just because you know football doesn't mean you can explain it and doesn't mean you can talk about it. I had to put the ego aside. I said, just because I know more football than anyone in this arena does not mean I am good at this. Yeah. And you put the work in. I probably watched more film as a caster than you do as a player, because you have two teams to study now.
Right.
Instead of studying your opponent, you have to study two teams. And I was like, man, this is a lot of work, but you put the work in and you accept the fact that, yes, that guy went to Syracuse and has never been on a football field in his life, but he's a lot better at this than you. Okay, what does he do great? It's like, it's starting off from ground one. If you're a quarterback right now, you're watching Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes. If you want to be a broadcaster, you're watching the greats. You're watching Joe Buck. You're watching Tony Romo right now.
Yeah.
And once you put yourself in those shoes, it becomes much more comforting.
Wow. That's a really interesting perspective. And I mean, I could only imagine what it's like having to like tame down how you know to talk about the game.
That was the toughest thing.
Yeah.
That was the toughest thing. And understanding you're not watching this game as you're watching it as a fan. I'm a DB, and my mindset will always be on DBs. The hardest thing was, hey, stop watching the DBs. It's a run play to the left.
Right.
The fan doesn't care about what the safety did because he didn't make the tackle. Why would they care about that?
Right.
Following, as funny as it sounds, following the ball was the hardest thing to do because I'm looking at things from a defensive perspective. So that whole first year, I just finished up my fourth season. That whole first year was terrible because there were so many things to understand as far as what would a fan want to be explained on this play.
Yeah.
I'd like to think I'm a lot better now, but it was through those tough lessons.
And that didn't discourage you from continuing to pursue it?
It didn't, because that acknowledging that I was bad at something, I think when you come from sports, it doesn't make you shy away from it. It makes you think, okay, I'm pissed off now. I want to be good at this, and I'm going to prove it to me. I'm going to prove it to everybody watching this who sees how bad I am. And it's a fight or flight thing, you know. Either you're good, okay, this isn't for me. I'm going to go turn a new leaf somewhere else, or I'm going to buckle down and get really good at this and see if I can make something happen here.
I think a lot of that competitive spirit.
100%. 100%. And again, it comes back down to just having a life in sports. I truly think that.
Okay, so commentating on esports.
Yeah.
Where is ESTV the first group to ever do that, or?
So the esports world is fascinating. It is this past year, COVID happens, and a lot of people are really tuning in to esports for the first time because there was nothing else. You know, if you think back to March to June 2020, we didn't think there was going to be a college football season. They were still figuring out the bubble. We didn't know what was going on. So everyone was just doing esports stuff. You know, hey, let's have Kevin Durant and LeBron can't play on the court. Let's make a 2K tournament. Let's have a Madden tournament, you know, and people were kind of tuning in. We were about 10 months in. And, you know, we were talking about it earlier, and I hate to say it, but I really think ESTV as a company, we're going to look back and say that was one of the greatest things that could have happened to the esports community. Again, this is much more important, you know, is the lives that were affected and the dangers of COVID. But the esports industry as a whole greatly benefited from it. People were inside, working remotely. They had nothing else to do. So casting esports was a crash course in, yes, I've been doing the broadcasting thing for a lot of years, but there are still a lot of changes, and it was still the same mindset of, hey, just because you can broadcast on a live on a live television channel doesn't mean you can do it for Madden and esports. It's a whole different thing. So I had to humble myself again and say, okay, here's how you tweak little things here or there for an esports broadcast.
And so what are some of those differences?
The differences there are, okay, so if you're watching a high school game, a college game, not high school is a bad example. If you're watching a college or NFL game, 80% of the viewers are generally interested. They're watching it because their husband likes it. They're watching it because their wife went to the school. They're watching it because the school's down the road. They're watching it because Tim Tebow signed their jersey one day 10 years ago, you know?
Yep.
20% of the fans are diehard fans and love the Tony Romo broadcast, breaking down the X's and O's, the minute galaxy brain football knowledge, right?
Yep.
With esports, it's different. Nobody's watching it passively. You don't accidentally watch Fortnite. You don't I'll turn on the TV and all of a sudden figure skating comes on and then golf comes on and then whatever else NBC Sports has coming on.
Right.
You don't accidentally watch esports. So I can actually get more into the X's and O's of football on a video game than I can on a real world football game because everyone watching Madden has played Madden. So I can discuss that. 1% of the people watching a college football game have played college football.
Yep. If that.
It's if that, exactly. It's so backwards.
That's crazy.
It's really backwards, but once once it clicked, it made a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did it take you a while to figure that out, or did you have people that had already kind of tested it and they were like, they give you
Thankfully, there was a member of our ESTV team. He works with us on the business development side of things. Amon Green, the running back from the Green Bay Packers, golden era, I guess we'll call it. Not the way back golden era, but the recent, a young Favre golden era. Has been in the esports world far longer than I have. I mean, he was a big gamer when he was still playing back in the early aughts, late 90s. And he's been casting for a while, and I got a lot of tips from him.
Yeah.
And watching him break things down, I was like, wow, he's really diving into the intricacies of cover 2. And I asked him about it. He's like, yeah, man, everyone watching this understands Madden. I was like, oh. And then going forward, it was, okay, I can get into the X's and O's here.
Yeah. And were you a gamer all through, as a young professional?
I tell people all the time, if you go into a college locker room, NFL locker room, outside of who you're playing that week, the next biggest conversation is who can beat who in Madden, who's better at Call of Duty, who's better at 2K. Because it's just competition. You can't turn it off. Just because practice is over, an athlete's mind just wants to compete at something 24/7. Go to any college dorm, find out where the athletes are at, and they're playing some kind of video game.
Yep, that's really interesting. So for ESTV, you're Director of Business Development?
Yes.
So how do you develop business for your esports channel?
Yes. So my particular lane of focus is collegiate esports. Coming from college sports, I know how colleges work, right? So this past year, COVID hits, and a lot of colleges have budgets, and as you know, the way budgets work, if you don't spend it, you don't get it again. Right. So many colleges were building up their esports programs because, again, this was the time when we don't know if there's going to be football. We don't know if there's going to be basketball. We don't know if March Madness is going to be a thing. We don't know if track's going to be a thing. Schools were cutting programs. And meanwhile, Kentucky built a state-of-the-art esports facility. Ohio State has a new one. UC Irvine is basically the Clemson of esports. They have a beautiful setup. Mizzou has a beautiful setup. And it kind of clicked, hey, we need to start diving fully into collegiate esports. And that was the focus of last year for me. And thankfully, with the hard work of our team, we have over 300 schools who we have exclusive rights to license all their competitions. And it's been incredible, from junior colleges to major D1 universities and everything in between, from tech online only schools to HBCUs, the entire collegiate grid. We just went after it all, and we're very happy with what we were able to accomplish this past year.
And that probably helps them, right? It
does. It's really, really cool, and it didn't hit me until we did a tournament, and I get a random DM on Twitter, and it was a mom saying, hey, my son, I knew he went to school and was on a scholarship, but I didn't really fully understand it, but I get it now. And it kind of clicked. How cool is that? Like, these kids get to call their mom and say, hey, I know you think video games are a joke. Turn on your TV and watch me play. and hear the broadcasters say John Smith, born in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. You know, like how cool of a moment is that for them? And it's such a heartwarming feeling. And every time we do a big tournament, I get a message from someone's brother or uncle or grandma, and it's like, I get what little Johnny does now. Thank you so much. And on the flip side of that is there's over 300 colleges who we get stuff from. We can't show it all, and we can't broadcast it all. So we get to tell them, hey, go to your journalism department and tell those kids they can broadcast a game, have it on TV, and how's that for a resume going forward? Take that to Fox Sports or ESPN and see if you don't get the internship. Hey, I've been on national TV before. Yeah. So it's a win-win. We get to show their stuff and build the esports space. They get to be on international television. There's kids in Brazil watching Boise State play Fortnite. You know, it's a really cool thing.
So it's not just sports. It's
everything.
It's all gaming.
It's everything. And what's so fun about it is every year 12 new games come out that are going to take the world by storm. Yep. You know, there's going to be more than 12 games, but there's always 10 to 12 that people really latch onto. You know, you're always going to have the Maddens, the FIFAs, and Call of Duty. Yep. But there's always a game that pops up out of nowhere that just people love. It's like, okay, let's go get the licensing rights for that and see if people want to play it. But that's what's so exciting is you don't even attempt to keep up with it all because you can't keep up with it all.
For sure.
There's Japanese games, there's Korean games, there's Australian games. It's impossible, but that's why it's so fun because there's a bottomless pit of stuff to learn about. You
know a game that I would recommend you picking up, but you probably won't?
What's that?
Pokemon Go. I see these people everywhere.
They're all over the place.
Before, it used to throw me out. I'm like, what are all these people doing standing on a corner?
Yeah.
Now I'm just like, oh, they're probably playing Pokemon.
And one of the things why also esports, whether it was Pokemon Go, Madden, Call of Duty, whatever it was, had such a big year because we couldn't go to the bar to hang out with our friends. Kids couldn't go to school to see their friends. That was the playground. Putting on your headset and talking to your friends, like, yeah, the game is fun, but I haven't seen my friends in 6 months at school. So hey, Mom, I'm not wasting my time down in the basement. I'm talking to Johnny, who I haven't seen, who I can't see. And like you said, you see kids playing Pokemon Go. Yeah, sure, they're not playing soccer. Maybe you'd like them to be a little more physically active, but they're hanging with their friends. They're outside. And at the end of the day, it's about community.
Yep. Yeah, I love that. So since you probably spend too many hours a day in gaming and esports and commentating, what do you do for fun? Is it still gaming?
It is. Mostly golf, though.
Nice.
I picked up golf about 2.5 years ago. And similar to that first year broadcasting, I was so bad. It was fight or flight. It's like, this is an expensive hobby. If I walk away, I'm better for it because I'm not spending money. Screw it. I'm just going to try and get good at this thing. I'm not good because nobody's good. If you're good, you're on the tour. But I'm good enough to have fun. Haven't been able to recently, but peak COVID when everything was remote, I was getting out there maybe 2 or 3 times a week and just buckled down. And I was like, okay, I'm going to break 100. Oh, shoot, I did it. I'm going to break 90. Oh, shoot, I did it. I'm going to break this and this. And golf, movies, and video games, I guess, would be the big 3.
That's epic. You're probably like most professional athletes who I feel like no matter what, if you played a sport at a high level, you're just good at golf. You have the fundamentals.
My brother laid it out to be perfect. He's been golfing for a while. That's why I knew I needed a hobby of some kind to get me outside. And him and my dad golfed a lot, and everybody said, hey, the business world, learn how to golf. Get to a country club someday, and it'll tremendously help your business. Like, all right, let me try this. And this is when I'm shooting like 130. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm holding it like a baseball bat. I just want to be outside with them.
Right.
But he told me, he's like, hey, look around a golf course. These guys are 70 years old, 80 years old. You got 65-year-old women shooting 80s. Like, you're gonna figure it out. You're an athlete. If they can do it, you can do it. It's like, look at Dad. If he can do it,
that's cool.
This guy's had 10 knee surgeries. You can do it. And I was like, oh, yeah. You just got to get through the frustrating part.
I know.
Honestly, I don't have kids yet. I'm putting them in golf because it is such a mental, there's something special about having no one to blame but yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many things to think about, and there's so many elements, and it's so easy to get frustrated. But you still have 12 holes left, so what are you gonna do? You're gonna hack at the ground and break your clubs, or you're gonna finish through it. I love meeting people who've played golf all their lives or as a kid, because they are the mentally toughest people that you're gonna come across.
Yeah, dude, it builds character.
Oh,
that's
without
for sure.
question.
Yeah.
Without question. And it's one of those things where like a receiver can go out and have a great game, but they can lose by 50 points, and he can have 3 touchdowns. Golf, did you do good or bad? It's all up to you.
Exactly.
It's all up to you.
Yep.
Max Homa, of course, a Valencia Viking alum. Seeing him and all his success, it's like, God, that dude is so, like, I understand that, yes, golf isn't necessarily associated with athleticism, but if you want to pick somebody to climb Mount Everest one day, it's like, don't just assume it's going to be the super strong, fast, jump high athlete. Like, I'm going with a golfer. It's the mentally toughest people that you are ever going to find, and it's so fascinating.
I love that. So is Max Homa a gamer? Like,
he gets on Call of Duty. I haven't played with him on Call of Duty, but I don't know. I need to start asking him for hookups at a golf course or something.
Yeah, I feel like there's a whole thing, like the whole celebrities gaming, like you said.
You know what? What's been really cool about this past year, and whenever I reference this past year, I just mean the boom of esports, as far as America goes, at least, is like Richard Sherman, diehard gamer. People would have never known that.
Right.
Post Malone, diehard gamer.
Wow.
Mookie Betts, diehard. You would never know, because you think of these guys. Well, there's so many other things to talk about.
Yep.
But now that like they're being asked about games and press conferences and stuff, and just being a part of the esports world, that's the most exciting thing to see. Is like, dude, it's not associated with the nerd in his grandma's basement anymore. It's like, no, it's a way to make a lot of money.
Yep.
Another way, it's a way to get scholarships now, but also it's just a hobby. It's a way to compete, and it's a way to hang out with your friends at the end of the day.
Yeah, dude, I love that. We're at 30 minutes. I feel like we could either go into a whole new subject and take another 10, 15 minutes.
Let's do it, man. Hey, it's all up to you.
Okay.
All up to you.
Well, because you mentioned the draft, and this is the thing, especially in the world that I'm in, that I see all the time. Hence the Advice First podcast. People are getting pulled in so many directions, saying, "Hey, do this with your signing bonus, or sign with me." Blah 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 blah. It's like, how do you find somebody that you can trust?
If you don't already have someone you can trust, you are a goldfish in a pool of sharks, man. It's terrifying. I mean, imagine coming from a small town in Tennessee. You get a scholarship to LSU. You're a first-round pick. You come from a town of 600 people. Right. You don't even. Where are you going to find a CPA? Where are you going to find a financial advisor?
Right.
You don't even know what those things are.
Right.
And it's unfortunate that to this day, year after year, there are kids, honestly, who get taken advantage of by that. I put it on the colleges. I really do.
Huh.
Your LSU, you're going to have draft picks every year. Your Boise State, you're not going to have as many as LSU, but you're going to have draft picks every year. If you are a college who is consistently putting out NFL talent, there is no reason your seniors or juniors, if you're leaving early, start them when they're freshmen, should have as much knowledge of financial literacy as they do biology or chemistry.
Wow.
Hey, Michael, the first Monday of every month, as an LSU Tiger, as a member of the Clemson Tigers, 1 hour you're going to take a financial literacy. Just learn what the stock market is. Learn what investing is. Learn how a company goes public. Because so many guys get taken advantage of. And, you get these guys who go to Stanford, Harvard, Yale, wherever the heck it is. They have a huge leg up on you. They are light years ahead of you as far as financial literacy goes. The same way you're way bigger and faster and stronger than they'll ever be, right?
Exactly.
So to assume that just because you're great at this thing, that's going to carry over to something else. No, there's people who are a lot better than you at that, right? If John on Wall Street came and ran a 40 against you, you're going to dust him, right? Okay, well, when you enter his world, he's going to dust you if you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
And that's why I put it on the colleges, because an 18-year-old kid is not thinking about that.
Yep.
But the colleges know what these kids are capable of. They know who they're putting out. You can't let... You can't hand a kid $20 million and say, hey, be smart with this.
Right.
He's already spent that money.
Yeah.
That money is long gone.
Yep.
But if you tell him as a freshman in college, hey, this is how you spend your money, you have a better chance of him being successful when you hand him the money. You can't do it after. You know, you can't hand a kid a bag of Reese's and say, hey, you can't eat those till after dinner.
Yeah.
No, it's not how it works. So I truly think these colleges are failing.
Yeah.
Their student athletes.
That's such a great point. How did you overcome that gap of financial literacy?
Having a mom who was an accountant.
Oh yeah.
I got lucky.
Yeah.
I got so lucky, and I think back to my rookie year, and just seeing the very dumb mistakes that guys are making. Also, it goes back to Shane as well. Seeing the guys around that locker room and understanding you can't keep up with them. Mm-hmm. Like that free safety who's been in the league for 10 years, he's going to have shoes that you can't get yet, man. He has a Ferrari. That doesn't mean you need to go buy one. Be smart.
Yeah.
A lot of guys don't understand that, and they try to keep up. Because, you got Instagram, Twitter, and there's an image persona that people have to keep up now. And it's unfortunate that even professional athletes feel that kind of pressure. But to answer your question, I just got lucky. I had a mom who was an accountant, and I had a brother who revealed to me, hey, don't keep up with these guys. Mm-hmm. You don't have to. Yes, go get a nice pair of shoes. If you like shoes, don't get them just because everyone else has them. Yeah. Go get a really nice bottle of whiskey, not to impress people, but just because you really like whiskey. You know, don't. I never felt the need to spend money on something I didn't truly want, and that's thanks to being in a good situation.
Dude, that's awesome. I mean, because you could have been upset that your mom was like, "Oh, you got this, but don't touch it. I'm taking it."
It's when you're in Vegas at a day party, you don't want a text from your mom. Right. But you know what? She saved me a lot of money saying, what the heck are you doing? Yeah. Call me when you get back to your hotel room. It's like, you know what? Yeah, this is annoying right now, but she's right. She's right. Yeah. So, and also having a financial advisor who was very hands-on as well, which is what we wanted. I don't want a guy who's going to sit there and say, hey, I should have told you 2 months ago not to do that. No, call me right now. I don't want to hear it, but I need to hear it, you know. And thankfully, again, just being surrounded by good people, honestly.
That's huge. Has it been difficult to learn how to build the business side of things now? Was that a whole new education?
Every day is an education. Yeah. Esports is interesting because, yes, the television industry has worked a certain way forever, but esports is breaking all the rules. So while traditionally I would not be able to walk into a television network and get the decision-making influence that I have now, that would never happen. But because it's so new, it's impossible to make a mistake right now. Yeah. If you started a movie studio right now, you could fail at it because there's so many successful ones. If you started a car dealership, you could fail and make mistakes because there's so many examples of how to do it. There's no example of how to do an esports TV network. Yeah. We're one of the first ones.
No blueprint.
But there's freedom in that. There's, hey, let's rearrange this. Let's show this before this today. See how it affects viewership. Oh, that didn't work. That was terrible. If I was working under 5 people, I would have been fired for making that decision. Yeah. But there's freedom. So to answer your question, we're all still learning. Anybody walking around the esports industry saying they have this thing figured out, run from them. Don't invest with them. Nobody knows. Yeah. It's just a gold rush. It's the Wild West of who. It's a race to figure it out first. Yep. So yeah, there is pressure because you want it to be good, but there's also this childlike wonder of just experimenting right now.
Yeah, that's huge. Dude, that's awesome. You've shared some amazing lessons today.
This has been great, man.
Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed the conversation.
This time flies by. You were not lying.
It really does, 100%. How can our listeners connect with you?
Yes, Twitter, Brock Vereen, Instagram, Brock.Vereen. I have to warn you, I'm very boring on there. It's mainly to monitor esports stuff, but if you ever have a question about anything esports related, do not hesitate to let me know.
You're the man, dude. Brock,
been great.
Yeah, it was great to have you on. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Next Financial Group, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Prosperitas Financial is not an affiliate of Next Financial Group, Inc. This material is not intended as an offer or solicitation for the purchase of sale of any security or other financial instrument. Past performance does not guarantee future performance. All the views expressed are those of Robert Clark and Prosperitas Financial and not of those of Next Financial Group, Inc. Next does not offer tax or legal advice. The S&P 500 is a market cap weighted index composed of common stocks of 500 leading companies in the leading industries of the U.S. economy. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is a price weighted index of 30 actively traded blue chip stocks.